Whenever
you
you're
wake
thinking
up,
about
you
it,
brush your teeth, you send Dynasty trades. Like,
Yes.
that's what your day should look like. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't, you're doing something wrong.
Did you know the best strategy in Dynasty is to sell a player as soon as they produce?
That's sarcasm. Depends on how you define a good Dynasty team. And that can be subjective, but to us, good means you win money because money is cool. Why the heck else would you get in these leagues with a buy-in if you didn't want to win the entire league and take people's money? A team that can compete for 2 or 3 years, that's what makes a good Dynasty roster. That's what makes you're just donating your buy-in if you're just in a perpetual rebuild. I'm a genius, dude.
I know.
It's if you let what you think about a player override value, thinking strategically, it's going to kill you.
Look beyond your opinion of a player and look at the market value. If someone has fallen 2 rounds, take them. Yeah, and I think that's really what we're saying. It often behooves you to down tier for more points instead of down tiering for depth.
Are you like doing
And
like an
that's
SAT
something that we
words
really
thing? Because you keep saying usurp and
I'm
behooves.
sorry. I've never said to you.
Like, what's the app on your phone where you like learn new words?
Well, that's what I've been
Yeah.
doing this entire time. I'm like, I've been thesaurusing all of
When you
this,
see
so-
Nathan sitting in thought, he's like, what word am I going to use when it gets to me? Go ahead.
No, but
Chris, I love him, Olave.
Yeah.
Chris Olave, I love him. Yeah, Drake, I love him, London.
Not somebody that we did a prospect video before the draft. Not somebody that I watched film on. Did you watch film on him?
I did.
Yeah, whatever. Did you watch film on him?
I did.
Okay, everybody watched film but me.
Market value fluctuates week to week in Dynasty. And the funny thing is, it actually happens more in the offseason than it does during the actual season when things are going on. Because
crazy.
Dynasty players get bored.
Because we get bored.
That's why we play Dynasty.
Yep. There are a couple guys in Dynasty that you really can't say anything about without getting completely trash for them. No. But buy Tony Pollard now while he's going in the 5th round, so next year you can make sure you brag about it when he's going in the 11th. If you really want to buy into high-producing running backs, why not do the running backs that have already fallen because of the age? There's zero chance that his value is higher next year than it is now with Tony. There's not a chance.
Please sell Tony Pollard. Please do not draft him. Draft the young wide receiver instead.
Nick
And if you're,
that's-
some of you are gonna watch this and still draft him anyways, and you're hopeless. I'm sorry. You shouldn't
Wow.
be playing Dynasty.
Oh my gosh. What is wrong with you guys? I mean, seriously. What is it about Tony Pollard that we're that excited about? You think Tony Pollard's the workhorse between the tackles back? Seriously? And now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's Cam Akers season again. And he's sliding back.
Cam Akers,
so he's going.
SZN.
You have, I kid you not, a 3rd chance to sell Cam Akers. I am pleading with you to do it now. I've never seen, and people are like, oh, I'm not so sure I'm selling Cam Akers. Why would you not? Somebody's gonna get on this jersey wearing a split Tony Pollard Cam Akers jersey and be like, these guys suck. Like,
The Bears suck. That's why they have the 1st overall pick. Yeah.
It is hilarious how much Bears fans have been flexing that they got the #1 pick. I'm like, you are flexing that you were the.
We have
worst
Justin
team in-
Fields and the #1 pick. Is there a correlation there?
because I can already tell people are watching this video and there's tears rolling down their face.
Clickbait.
They're so mad.
Subpar analysis.
Do us a huge favor. If you want these huge values, do a huge like on this huge video and make sure you huge subscribe. And that didn't make
Huge.
sense. Happy Memorial Day and holiday weekend. What the frick? Always advertising right from the gate. Stupid money crunchers. How happy Memorial Day to you all. Jeremy said it best. Happy Memorial Day. Shout out to the veterans and their families and for sacrifices made for us to be here talking about fantasy football. My man.
Let's go.
I love it. I couldn't have said it better myself. So we are appreciative today of our veterans, and we are also appreciative that they allow us to talk about team blueprints and Dynasty Fantasy Football, because that's what Nathan and I love to do, is what we're going to do today on this live stream. But we are happy you've joined us today and hope you're having a good day off of work. I actually got Friday off of work, too. I was really excited about that. But today we wanted to jump on here, and we wanted to actually do some team blueprints live. So now I will say, with the team blueprint process, we spend probably at least 10 times more time doing a team review than almost any other creator. Why? Because a lot of times they go through and they do like a live stream review, or they do a podcast, or they do a team review video, or they do whatever. And so like our process is much more in-depth for two reasons. Number one, we try to make our analysis more in-depth. But number two, creating the graphic that is the team blueprint, it looks great, right? Everybody loves the way it looks. It takes a lot of time. And so, like, I have some prepped blueprints today, and what prep means, it means we've gone through the first part of our review stage where we've put in the roster information, we've put in kind of the rules of the league, and then Nathan and I are going to go through and figure out how we would grade this team, where we would put it, and the direction we want to take it. And so we're going to do that live on today's channel. And so today you're going to see the thought process behind Nathan and I taking a Dynasty team, one of your Dynasty teams, 3 of you guys will get this today, and how we look at it and what we would do if it were our own Dynasty team. And all the while knowing that you can go to flockfantasy.com/domain. You already saw the stupid ad that flew up there. And you can get your own team blueprint and also the process that goes behind making the team blueprint. And then afterwards, getting that one-on-one advice and making sure that you are doing the best to win your leagues. So with that being said, let's do 3 blueprints today. Figured we'll spend quite a few minutes on all of these. You can drop your comments. I don't know how many of them we'll get today. We will answer super chats though, so we do appreciate it. We do want to kind of focus on the team reviews here, but let's jump into the team blueprints and let's start with our guy Mad Dog. Mad Dog's gonna be our first one, so we're gonna kind of pull up our notes here. We've got kind of our resources in front of us, and then we can kind of go ahead and evaluate this team together. We can just talk through this. So we have gone through and done the roster, and on the roster, that's kind of where we start. Looking at it's a 12-team Superflex, full point PPR, quarterback only one running back slot. That's interesting, and also kind of nice.
Very interesting
because you can really, with one running back slot, you could actually kind of limit how much investment. Like, I mean, you're talking about like limiting the volatility of the running back position.
You can combine and raise your upside.
Oh, man.
Did you like that?
Bill Walton died.
Combine.
That stinks.
Raise your upside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good.
Bill Walton died.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? He's only 71.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on like psychedelics half the time, right? But
yes.
Rip Bill Walton. Okay, so that's interesting actually, because that will kind of determine how I, shape this team review. But it's a dual elite QB build, right? And we have that in the team archetype already because you've got Lamar Jackson, you've got Anthony Richardson, so you've got 2 of those top guys, and so that's good.
I mean, you could debate this. I love seeing builds like this though, where you're debating between dual elite QB and wide receiver factory.
That means the value insulation is crazy.
Elite value when you've got pretty much both of those. This could be wide receiver factory as easily as it could be dual elite QB.
Yeah.
I absolutely love seeing that.
Yeah. But then looking at the rest of his roster here, you go ahead and look at the rest of his roster if you would. Yeah. But we've got, pretty good value at each of these positions. Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill as tight end, so obviously we're going to be addressing that. But let's go through and kind of do the player ratings for this roster and maybe start there with how we're going to move forward with what we're going to tell them to do.
Yeah, so with your player ratings, obviously since it's dual elite QB, that's going to be one of the best grades that you have on the positional grades. An 8 out of 10, I think that's without question for sure what the grade that you deserve. And do you have any really useful backups after that? You have Russell Wilson, so that's a nice little starting option there, but he doesn't have a bunch of long-term safety. Obviously, a little bit of risk with Anthony Richardson. You've got great value insulation with Lamar Jackson. That, to me, is a very clear 8 out of 10. Your running backs will give you a 6 out of 10, especially with the way that this is set up with the league settings. I'm almost inclined, I kind of would debate here between like a 6 and a 7 out of 10 because no, you're not running back heavy. No, you're not running back dominant. You don't really have anyone past Breece Hall and Isaiah Pacheco. But again, given the league settings you have where you only have to start one running back, this could be a 7 out of 10 if you wanted it to be. I'm definitely, I'd be a little lenient on that grade for sure.
And these are placeholder grades anyway, so like we would probably move this up to a 7. I agree with you. You need a good running back and a good backup and then maybe a third one for your flexes, but you've got Pacheco and Hall.
Which is a great start. So
it is, and the depth is a little. So you've got what? Charbonnet, Foreman, Herbert, Hunt, P. Ryan. So none of that's really startable depth.
No,
so I guess it could be, I guess it could be 6 or 7. But
in 8 out of 10 for wide receiver, I think very clearly here. Again, a 12 team. You've got Garrett Wilson. His target share last year was ridiculous. He's playing with Aaron Rodgers. Chris Olave, great value, production questions, and then you got Michael Pittman as your third option here. Oh, and Justin Jefferson, just let me throw that in there. I think this is easily an 8 out of 10. I'm very, very comfortable with this wide receiver room for sure. Great situation to have. And then a 1 out of 10 for tight end. You don't really have anything going for you here other than, Taysom Hill.
But
that's actually what we're going to recommend to you. If you don't have an elite tight end, don't ride with Jake Ferguson. invest in him when you know that 6 other tight ends are going to outproduce him this year. Go sell Jake Ferguson for a higher ceiling asset at a different position, and then go start Taysom Hill every single week. Seriously.
Now, you do it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. Actually, I'm okay with the other because this isn't a tight end premium league, so that does factor in our decision. That being said, we do want a more secure tight end at this position, so I would maybe say go get. I think in our players to target, we're definitely going to have a tight end here, right?
Yes.
I would probably say this team could win this year.
Oh, 100%.
So I'm hesitant to say Hawk as a target because he probably needs somebody.
I go Kincaid.
Kincaid's a good one.
Kincaid,
all right, so
Kincaid is my target here. I'd also be like we already said with the production.
Hold on, I have to answer this too. How do you target Pittman if you have Pittman? Those are placeholders. That's what we're doing right now. We're filling those out.
Yeah.
So again, the roster and the archetype are the only things that we've done. The rest of it we're doing live right now. So those are placeholders.
Yep.
So the first one again that we'll put in there is going to be Dalton Kincaid for sure.
Dalton Kincaid is going to be our a big target here, and then Chris Olave. Let's try to pivot off of Chris Olave and get a guy who has more production and honestly value upside, in my opinion, in Drake London. Drake London is one of our top targets here, and Chris Olave is one of our top pivot options that we're telling people to pivot off of and go get a guy like Drake London. That's probably our first sell there. And then I'm not gonna lie, man, Pacheco, he's a fine second option, especially in this format. But I'm an advocate for moving off Pacheco right now and going to get a value equivalent guy like a Rashad White.
I mean,
even paying up because you have some decent depth here. What if you paid up and got like a Saquon Barkley, who you can put in your flex in a 12 team?
Right.
That would be a target that I recommend, like a Rashad White or a Saquon Barkley here in selling Isaiah Pacheco plus.
I definitely think that I like Isaiah Pacheco's value actually. But I definitely think if you can get a Rashad White or Saquon Barkley, if you can get one of those targets.
Again, it's nothing really against Isaiah Pacheco. It's just more there are some guys around there at the running back position that we might prefer that you move towards a little more given these settings, because again, Isaiah Pacheco, his value is fine. He was a running back 15 last year. We know that Saquon Barkley's ceiling is higher. You can pay up a little bit to get him. We know that Rashad White's ceiling is higher because he was just a running back 4 last year, and you can get him at relatively the same price.
So let's also take a look here at the draft capital grade because he does have some relevant picks this year. So he's got the 104, he's got the 105, he's got the 108, but he does not have any picks in 25. So that means that makes the decision for us when we're doing his 3-year outlook here, which isn't filled in yet. It's going to be contend, probably reload, because this is a pretty good team, honestly. Like I think this straddles. Like I think you're definitely
He's
moving.
On the contending side
I think you're moving that way.
Yes,
so
100%.
like I think you're getting towards elite value here. Like if you play your cards right, because there's a lot of draft capital value here, and you have an extra first in 26 as well, which is good. Don't trade your first.
Yeah.
But in terms of who to target there, like I definitely think 104, 105, you're targeting a third quarterback and wide receivers. But you're looking at your quarterback depth here: Stetson Bennett, Taylor Heineke, DTR, Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson's a good backup, but like you can take his team to the next level if at like the 10, if you can get
Drake May and Malik Neighbors.
Yes, that's. I think Drake May and Malik Neighbors are good targets there. And then the 108. So the 108's interesting.
This would be my third sell target, or my third sell option.
I would down tier here.
I would down tier from the 108. That would be my next move.
And the other option here probably is you could down tier from the 108 to maybe the 111 or something and get Bowers if you wanted to do that route at tight end, because I like Bowers for this team as well. Yep. And I think there will be plenty of target share for him here. So. But you can't take a guy like Bowers at the 108 because the value there is probably going to be JJ McCarthy or something like that.
Or move that 108 for a Kincaid. That's how you could get your.
Or that's how you can get Kincaid. So again, some of these picks, like I think you're pivoting off of some of the picks here, making some of the picks, but this is going to be an elite value team, man. Like you're getting there.
Yep.
And really, again, you're 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10 a running back. Borderline 7 though. If you move back in, you could also get Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks would be perfect for this team.
Yes.
Jonathan Brooks is your third quarterback here would be magnificent.
And developing Trey Benson on your bench too, since you have your starting, you've got your starting running back set.
Yes.
You'll probably have a flex running back to start as well. If you have Benson just chilling there.
So those are some ideas of who we would maybe target with the picks, and that comes into so really as we kind of fill this out, I would go contend, reload. Do elite QB going towards elite value. It's a 4-point passing touchdown, so I like that you've got the rushing upside QBs here too. Like that's definitely They are really valuable in this format, and they're going to give you a ton of upside from a production standpoint.
Yeah.
So the look to trades are probably going to be Chris Olave, pivot, Isaiah Pacheco, try to pivot or up tier, and then probably the 108, and that's going to be a down tier pivot, right?
Yep.
Okay, because it's all really about pivoting here, especially when you've got teams this good. You want to do lots of pivots.
Yeah, and that's kind of going to be some of our suggestions and comments here for you is going to be those targets, right, for your 2024 picks. We really want you to target Neighbors, and we really want you to target May. You're going to be really comfortable at QB, and honestly, there you would probably be up to wide receiver factory as your primary team archetype if you have Neighbors, or again, like you said, maybe just an elite value.
Yeah,
because they're pretty close anyways. And then be mindful of the impact that these league settings have on running backs. You want to target high ceiling running backs that you can put in your starting slot, because really on most weeks you're starting max 2 running backs. Whereas a lot of other settings are going to have you starting, upwards of 3 or 4 running backs, given the settings there.
So yeah, I mean this is a really good team. Our players to target again are going to be somebody like Dalton Kincaid, a Rashad White, maybe even a Saquon Barkley, and then at wide receiver we didn't really give you a wide receiver buy because you've got pretty good wide receivers here.
Really. Yeah.
Drake London you could put on here because he would be the pivot with Chris Olave. He's our favorite pivot from that right now. Drake London would be the 4th guy there maybe. Your cornerstone assets are filled in. They look really good. And then let's move down to just our overall comments about this. And again, also contender rebuild scale. You're going to lead contend. But really like what I would say is you've done a really good job building this team. I think you've clearly taken some big value wins. You clearly have made some progress from your startup draft because you don't startup draft a team like this. And so you can run this league, in my opinion. I think your year 3 could go to contend if you play your cards right. So just make as many trades as you can that are going to help your team in the short term, and don't be afraid also to start moving some of your value around for contending assets as well. A Saquon Barkley move would be a perfect example of something like that. But even getting a Stephon Diggs on this team, I'd love Stephon Diggs in the flex spot on this team. Would love it. Like that would be sick. Like even if you move some assets around and get some other running backs and then down tier from Pacheco to Diggs, that'd be sick.
Maybe just go Rashad White as your running back target, and then go London, Diggs, and then Kincaid.
I love that. Yeah. So again, very good team. The depth score, I guess we didn't really talk about that, but it's going to be a 4. Not super good depth, but and it's start 10, I think. Yeah, 1, 2, 9. Start 9. Yeah. Which
don't be afraid of veterans here because of the value you already have.
But he does have JSN on his bench, which is nice. That's really the one nice. Pretty good player.
And I consider that more of like a developmental one.
Yes, I would too. Which I think it's good for this team. You've got startable players. So
it's great.
All right, there you go. Mad Dog, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being a member of the flock. And there's your team review. We'll get this formatted up. We'll get all of the new information in the blueprint as we kind of go through the template here. And we will send this over to you, my man. So again, great job building this team. Definitely follow up with us with some trades after we send this over to you, because I think it's going to be important to make sure you continue to run this league. So, all right, let's do another one here. Let's do Ars Deal here. I'll let you kind of introduce his roster here. But this is a wide receiver factory team. So another team that's got some good value insulation here that could potentially pivot to contend at some point if they play their cards right in terms of the value.
Yeah, this is a 12-team, 1 QB, full PPR, no tight end premium. And one of the most common, I guess you could say, obscure settings that does impact our analysis of the team is 6 points per passing touchdown, especially in 1 QB, right?
Yeah.
Your pass-happy quarterbacks are going to be a little bit more valued. Not a little. They're not valued more as much as rushing QBs are valued less in 6 point per passing touchdown. And then on 1 QB, right, there's a little bit of a knock on your guys like Kyler, who do have rushing upside, but it's not really a pro or a positive for them. Now, Justin Herbert can benefit from this because he is going to be passing the ball a bit more. He doesn't have as much rushing upside, but it's not going to be a knock on him. I like that you have Justin Herbert on this team. Geno Smith is your backup. I'm comfortable there. If you wanted to pivot off Herbert and get another guy, I don't really have an issue with it, but I think I'd just stick with Herbert, honestly, for now, given your team situation, because we're going to start analyzing this as well. But what were you going to say?
Well, my first thought here was for him to go get a higher upside person. Like
a higher upside
like rushing quarterback.
Oh, well, even in a 6 point passing touchdown league, that's what I mean. Spent
yeah, I know, but if you can get Kyler, like I'd prefer Kyler in this format. I think Kyler. I mean, like
okay, because in fairness, Kyler is throwing the ball as much as Herbert, and he's still running the ball.
Right.
So
I would be targeting, but
okay, that's fair.
Or paying up to get a Lamar who's throwing the ball a lot and does have the rushing upside, and like. My
gap
initial
between-
thought on this team was with Herbert in a 1 QB league is not super sexy to me. Like,
no, it's not.
which is again why I've also considered.
But again, given his team, like look at his team. Are you recommending that he make other moves first before moving off the quarterback?
Maybe, probably. I don't.
'Cause
In terms of order, I don't know. That was one of the moves I first saw. Was like, okay, well, let's go get a rushing.
So
quarterback.
maybe I'm just wrong there.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm even thinking like maybe move down to Jaden Daniels.
I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying because you're right. We always talk about how much we don't love Herbert in a 1 QB.
Well, we don't.
Format,
You've talked about how you don't love Herbert in a superflex league, which I get why. But even in a 6
I don't love his production in a superflex.
Well, exactly. So even in a
a
6 point, like Justin Herbert, if he's not productive, like
yeah, you're right.
So if
You're
I'm
right.
gonna have, in my opinion, if I'm gonna have a quarterback there that is a passing quarterback in a 6 point, I'd probably take Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert by a long shot because he's throwing for more touchdowns.
Yes.
So I don't disagree, but like that actually stood out to me as something I would maybe do.
So with that question mark there, we are going to give you a 6 out of 10 at quarterback. You're not value deficient at quarterback. You have Justin Herbert. You're fine, and there is trade value there. But there is objectively, we both agree on this, that there is more upside that you could get from Justin Herbert for sure.
Yes.
And you have a really young team here, man. Like. You are borderline. You have a lot of receivers. You're very receiver rich. You have Ayuk, you have Garrett Wilson, then you have Jaden Reed and Xavier Worthy in your bench or in your flex, and then on your bench you have Rashee Rice, A.D. Mitchell as guys on your bench. Like that's pretty impressive. Running backs, Jonathan Brooks and Marshawn Lloyd. Like this is as much of a future value team in my opinion as wide receiver factory. You're very wide receiver heavy, but a lot of them are young rookie assets. I mean, in your starting lineup alone, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of your 8 starters.
You know something, Nathan?
Are rookies. I think this is a future value.
This is a future value team,
in my opinion.
Yep, this absolutely is.
And this gives us the flexibility to. You're right. Definitely pivot off of Herbert because that's kind of an upside thing. And at wide receiver, I'm kind of comfortable. This gives you the flexibility to move off of Brandon Ayuk and see if you can't
get more upside. Again, I think there are another factor playing into this is it's only start 8.
Right.
So like
Ayuk and London are not far in value. We're gonna say target London again. Pivot off of Ayuk and target London. You can be patient with this one. This isn't like a do ASAP move because at some point, Brandon Ayuk will get paid, whether if it's not this year, then it's next year. But he does have pretty safe value. Like he's not going to fluctuate a ton until that contract comes. So you don't have to do it right now. Worst case scenario, like he signs a contract in a couple weeks and he moves up a spot or 2. But like Drake London would be a target here, or you can even down tier if you wanted to get some value upside. What route would you go here for if you were to move off Ayuk? Would you pivot to a value equivalent guy like London, or
probably
would you down tier?
It depends. Like the question I have for you is, do you think he could flip this team and contend this year with this value?
No.
So with
not
that, I'm just focusing on value insulated guys in that range, which I'm trying to get to a Drake London there. I'm trying to think. There's a Romo Dunze maybe I would try to pivot to because Romo Dunze could be the one in that offense next year, and Romo Dunze is better than Ayuk, so like maybe that's a down tier option. Because it really just depends on the contending thing. Yeah. If you're not contending, then you really are trying to play the market in that range, like 4th, 5th round. You're trying to get guys that are going to increase to be like first, second round guys.
But when you're looking ahead to 2025, who do you think is more likely to be taken in the second round of Dynasty startups or first in a 1 QB? Probably London.
London or a Dunze?
Yeah, of those two.
Oh yeah, for sure. London has. I think London has a higher ceiling. Yeah. But you have to pay up to get London is the problem. Like
not that much though. You'd be surprised.
Well, if you can make that, then that's
that much.
So Brandon Ayuk might just be a pivot. I agree with selling Brandon Ayuk because I don't think his value is going to be much higher than this in the future, even when he does get traded.
Yep.
I love.
You know what else I'm doing here too, and I'm gonna plant my flag here. Even though you're a future value team. A future value team does not mean you draft and keep all of your rookies. You take advantage of the value of those rookies and you go and you get more
security,
proven security. Yeah. And to me, in a 1 QB and a non-tight end premium 1 QB where tight end already isn't that much of a worry, I'm moving off Brock Bowers in my opinion, and I'm going and I'm getting another young running back, developmental running back like a Trey Benson plus, or I'm going and I'm getting another wide receiver to develop.
What wide receivers in that range would you target here?
Would you, or you could even do a tight end pivot and get a guy like Hawkinson, who you know is going to be productive once he comes back healthy, and he's a nice option when you know you're rebuilding.
If somebody will do that, yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Especially this year when you're probably like trying to reload this year.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like Brooks and Lloyd, and I'm holding them both for sure.
Yeah, I'm not moving off Worthy and Rice. I'm too worried about Rice getting suspended and Xavier Worthy's price going up.
Does he have
so
Rice?
I don't think it's worth moving off Worthy now, and it's definitely not worth moving off Rice. I like that duo there, though.
Yeah, I'd hold them both because then you can just keep the one that produces.
Yep. I like Reed. I like Lloyd's price. I like Brooks's price. I'm not moving off Garrett Wilson in a start 8-12 team. Like that really, to me, Bowers is the
So the look to trades are going to be Herbert, Ayuk, and Bowers.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay, and then the targets for him, like you mentioned, Drake London for sure again in this one. Drake London's a big trade target for us right now. A lot of these are going to be overlapping, even in different league settings. But Drake London is a good one. I'd say Trey Benson goes on here as well. TJ Hawkinson I'd put on here. And then the fourth one, again, looking for like some buy low good values. Maybe
Jalen Polk is so cheap.
Jalen Polk is a good one. Yeah, that's who I would go for. And I haven't looked at his draft capital. He has all of his draft capital, but no 25 seconds. So nothing out of the ordinary this year. And obviously he's already had his rookie draft. So this is kind of what he is looking at after drafting this year. So
you're definitely going into this year before the draft. You were in the middle of like what we would almost consider of a future value because you drafted those picks, but you're in a multi-year rebuild probably to begin with before you even acquired all these picks. Now you're really, really close. This year, you're probably going to be middle of the pack. You're going to have some productive young guys. You're going to have less productive young guys, which is probably going to leave you in like 6th place. And that's a fine position to be in for a year while you're developing some of these guys and they increase in value.
So this is clearly a reload contend.
This is a rebuild contend.
You would categorize this as a rebuild.
Yeah, because he's not reloading. He already has his young assets.
Okay, true.
Reloading is when you have old veteran assets and you're trying to move off them to get more value installation.
Yeah, I feel like there should be another term for that because this doesn't scream rebuild to me. This is like hang out and finish in the middle of the league, and then but like
but what is a multi-year rebuild? Like what's a hard rebuild or a multi-year rebuild? It is a multi-year rebuild. It's 2 or 3 years, and then you're not the same rebuild for those 3 years. You're still building value and you're still considering.
Okay, so this is the last year of a rebuild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the 3-year outlook is really purely based on are you contending or not.
Right.
And if you're not, like that's the difference between a rebuild and a reload.
So your cornerstones here, Herbert, Brooks, Wilson, Ayuk, and Bowers. Again, you've got one at each position. You've got some good spread across the board there. I like it. So we gave you your trades. We gave you your targets. Now, you rebuild contender scale. Again, we just mentioned you're leaning more towards rebuild, but you're starting to peek at that yellow a little bit and move a little bit towards contend. We talked about the positional grades a little bit, but for running back, Jonathan Brooks, Marshawn Lloyd, we have to give it a 3 right now, but we think that room is going to be a 5 next year on its own because we believe in Jonathan Brooks that much. For wide receiver, again, this is a wide receiver factory, but again, even wide receiver to 7, I think is the correct grade here. And because of that,
this is a future value.
This is a future value team.
It's not a wide receiver factory.
And then tight end, obviously good as well, but it's going to be less important in a non-tight end premium. You can still stay at a 7 and also get some value on top of that. And so in terms of, in your draft capital, just keep your 25 first no matter what, please, because you are going to need that this year. It'd probably be a middle round pick, like probably 105, 106.
Right, yeah.
So, overall, good job insulating your value here. The running backs that you do have on this team are running backs that are buy lows for us. And so like usually the biggest problem we have with rebuilds is that the running backs were like, okay, you got to get Nick Chubb off your team. Like he's not going to have any value next year. Austin Eckler, get him off your team. Yep. So these are running backs that we keep on a rebuild, which is pretty rare. There are only a couple of them.
Yep.
But I'd say keep doing what you're doing in terms of and the trades you've been making because it looks like you've bought low on a couple guys here. But honestly, outside of the moves that we mentioned, I'm not making a ton of moves after that in terms of these specific players because these are guys that I think a lot of these guys are good values right now, like in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
So, all right. Appreciate you, RSDL. Thank you so much for being a member of the flock. We do have a super chat here that we're going to answer before our next one real quick. It's from our guy, Michael. Michael, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Happy Memorial Day.
Yo.
Traded away Sun God. Ayuk, Monty, 25 first and a second. Obviously, that trade's going to be dependent on where that 25 first ends up.
I think it's a fair deal because we just know what the nature of rookie picks is, and that's this time next year, that 25 first is probably
says they're early 25 picks.
Valuable, yeah.
So
again, always assume when you're trading 4 picks that they're late firsts. But if you're pretty,
but if you're right,
it's an early first, then that could work out in your favor for sure. We already just talked about Ayuk. He's not a hard sell for us. He's a sell in some situations and a buy in some situations for us when we do these blueprints. And I think that really evens out as like he's a pretty safe asset to own right now, and you're not going to lose a ton of value by going and targeting him.
I will say it's dicey. Like you definitely down.
I definitely lean Amon Ra.
I do too, because down tiering and the next guy that you're down tiering to, the next best guy is Ayuk. That's risky bisky for me. And again, assuming a pick is early is risky as well. But even if it is early, you're still taking a shot on a rookie, and so you're trading one of the proven best wide receivers in the league for But again, Ayuk is proven as well. He's just from a value standpoint, you're moving down quite a bit. Again, I think it's fair. I lean Amon Ra in that situation, but I don't think you lost that trade by any means. So that's really what's important. So let's go to our next, and he says he still has Chase and Harrison Jr. Yeah, I mean, so that's a fine trade. I like that honestly because it's fairly. You take a little bit of a production drop from Amon Ra to Ayuk, but getting that even on a team where you're clearly stacked, getting some extra insulation there is not a bad idea. So I don't mind that at all. Thanks for your super chat, buddy. Appreciate it. Angel of Death's our last one here.
Yeah, Angel of Death is already. I can tell this is a hard rebuild, and that's not
what gave it away.
But
do keep in mind it's a 14 team.
Yeah, 14 team. So it's tougher to get some assets here in a 14 team. It's
oh my goodness.
Depth, but you're starting to keep Mitchell and Tyler Algier. You got DeMarcus Robinson, Chase Claypool, Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds, Traylon Burks as your top wide receivers, and Gardner Minshew in your super flex. Your depth isn't really adding up to much either. Ty Chandler, Roshan Johnson are your best guys here.
So here's how I look at this team, and then I'll let you keep going.
Yeah.
Of every single player on your roster, there is. I am not kidding. There's one player here that I'm comfortable starting in Dynasty leagues. It's Bryce Young. Everybody else, I'm not comfortable with.
No.
Some of the...
neither am I.
We need it, by the way. We need to fix some of the player logos.
I know. I'm making the note now.
And some of the players on the bench are in the starting lineup. So, but, again, this is a rough draft of this blueprint. But I legit, I'm only comfortable starting Young. So this is the hardest of hard rebuilds I think I've ever seen in my life. Which is fine. Again, it's a 14 team.
Oh, I've seen worse.
I've seen. Okay, let's look at his draft capital before I say anything else.
No team is completely screwed.
107, 109, 201, 207. So not even an early first year. 225 first. Whew, okay, this one's going to be a lot of work. So obviously contender rebuild. We'll go ahead and push it all hard rebuild. And let's go ahead and do the team grades here. Your quarterbacks, you got a 3. That's generous, I think. But a 14 team, so you got to account for that.
Yep.
A 2 for running backs, I think that's generous. A 2 for wide receiver, I think I'm not. I think that's generous. I'd probably give both positions a 0 or 1.
A 1 because you actually have assets.
Right, yeah. As opposed to tight end where you don't have a tight end.
You don't have any assets.
Yeah.
So,
but again, this is if you have a team like this is
what we're
this is our specialty.
These are the submissions that we expect people to make.
Yes, I know. I know.
Sneeze.
Don't sneeze more than once. Bless you. That's all you're getting. Stop. Be done. Stop sneezing, Nathan. Oh, he's doing it for attention now.
I always have 4, at least.
That's ridiculous.
And bonus. Woo! Excuse me.
Poor guy just wants his freaking blueprint.
Yeah, so the 107.
Sanitize it.
I'll tell you what, man. I am praying for you that you can get Draketh May at the 107.
That would really help.
I doubt it will happen in a 14 team. So if that's the case, then you take Rome Odunze. That's fine. 109. I'm probably looking for. Who would you be looking for there? A wide receiver, or would you take Nix at the 109 in this format? Would you risk it and hope that Bo Nix falls to the 201?
I probably would.
No, not the 14 team.
I think the value. I think the value would be Nix. At every single one of these picks, I'm taking market value. Every single one of them, no matter what. I don't care about teaming. I don't care about nothing.
I forgot about a 14 team too. So.
Because say for example you get Drake May at the 107, but Malik Neighbors falls there as well. I'm taking Neighbors. You take the market value every time.
Well, yeah.
That's okay. Even
of course.
Even Jaden Daniels, even
in a 14 team, Jaden Daniels won't be at the 107. It will still probably be one of May or Odunze. So this is just assuming that market falls the way
Yeah,
it does.
it will.
Obviously, you know that if Neighbors or Daniels falls to the 107,
That was hypothetical. My point was at any of these picks, I'm taking the best value available, no matter what.
Yes, but our recommended, like, if all else falls the way that it should, at the 109, who are you leaning in that range at market value? Probably one of Knicks or Worthy.
You know
or
what?
would you go Brooks?
I'm trying to trade back everywhere I can too. Like, this is a team where you have to make as many trades as you can. So like, I don't even care.
This is such a hard rebuild. I
would move back.
I want Penix in the second.
Yes, absolutely. I'm moving back at every pick if I can and getting assets on top. Like, everywhere I can, I'm taking advantage of people wanting to jump up where you can get somebody that may even be flexible.
Yeah, so that would be one of your look to trade options is at the 109, trade back because more often than not, Jonathan Brooks is going to be available there. And you're going to have a team in your league that definitely wants some Jonathan Brooks. And while I don't think he's terrible on your team and I do think he'll increase in value in the future and that's good for you, I think there are more assets that you could trade back for that will increase in value just as much because it's such a deep class. Keaton Mitchell and Tyler Algier, I'll pair both of those guys because you can get some value return
get
by
whatever
selling
you
those
can.
guys. There are still some people that are high on Keaton Mitchell and the opportunity. And Tyler Algier, I mean, he was still productive last year with Bijan Robinson and Arthur Smith offense.
Yep.
You can get some value there. Jamison Williams.
Easy.
That's our
Safer.
last easiest target. Get a safer asset who's bound to increase in value.
I think the other...
Gardner Minshew, sell him mid-season. He's a starting quarterback in a 14
And that
Superflex.
brings me to my next point is I think on this type of team, like you have to, number one, make as many trades as possible. Try to make 100 different deals on this team because you've got to flip the value profile of this team.
Small value wins. Get thirds.
Tiny value
Get
wins.
Thirds.
Get thirds on top of everything and just get a ton of thirds.
Gardner Minshew, I would say, I would not recommend selling him now. I would sell him mid-season. Because there are still some people that think Aiden O'Connell is going to compete when they literally just paid Gardner Minshew $50 million
It depends
a
on what
year.
you can get.
Gardner Minshew, contenders always overpay for quarterbacks when they're desperate in the middle of the season. We see it every single year. It will not fail with Gardner Minshew this year.
I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, but Nathan makes a good point there. Contenders will overpay. So actually, a lot of what I'm doing on this team is I'm going and getting cheap veterans that are going to produce midseason, and I'm flipping them. Because, and that it sounds counterintuitive, but guys, look at this team. Like when we're telling a team,
think about it. Tony Pollard is a guy that I would absolutely
smash buying on this team.
Target him.
Why? Because Tony Pollard's value is going to go up probably 25 to 30% in season. You've got a 25 or 30% value win on this team. That's huge.
You buy to sell.
You buy to sell. Exactly. I'm trying to think. Calvin Ridley is another good one also on the Titans, but even going down like into the later rounds, I'm trying to think of some productive guys. Like the old dudes.
Yeah, Lockett.
Yes.
Who else was an old dude there? Jerry Jeudy isn't old.
But he's a good
But he's a
value.
good value.
Jerry Jeudy on this team's a good target.
Austin Eckler.
Yes. Because, again, you're going to flip those guys midseason. You have to get value wins. There's no better way to get value wins than investing in veterans and flipping them and then investing in picks and flipping them. Yep. And so I'm trying to do both of those things, BOFA. And honestly, that's really all we can tell you. So, again, the look to trades here, Keaton Mitchell, Tyler Algier, Jamison Williams, and Gardner Minshew. The targets go for veterans. Some buy low young guys. I mean, if you're really talking about taking, like, guided dart throws here, somebody like Malachi Corley would be a good buy for this team because he's going pretty cheap right now. Somebody like Luke McCaffrey is a good you
say it serious with a serious face even though we're laughing.
Yes,
so it's not actually
this is a very serious thing.
It's very serious.
Somebody like Luke McCaffrey is somebody I target, and then I target veterans. Like, again, because we have to give them realistic
With your
targets.
Round picks, draft rookie running backs that are taken day 3. Because there's a chance that a couple of them will increase in value. You can ship them off at a premium for a second round pick.
Honestly, you've got a down tier from Bryce Young here as well, probably. Like Bryce Young's a good one here because he's going to increase in value.
I would actually hold Bryce Young.
On this team, I'm making as many down tiers as possible. I disagree.
Again,
I would down tier.
Who are you down tiering from Bryce Young?
I would try
because he's already on the low end.
I would
Justin
try
Fields?
to I would down tier to. No, there are productive younger quarterbacks below.
Bo Nix and Bryce Young are already going really close to each other, so Bo Nix isn't a down tier.
I think it is. There's a round between them. So if you can get even a second or a third on top, like you on this team, I'm taking that.
If you can.
Yeah.
But
so but that's a good one though. Bo Nix is one that I would down tier to. But even let's look. I mean, because he is your only you only have so many assets that you can take value wins on because they're really Bryce Young's the only guy with trade value here. So if we're actually talking about who he can down tier to. He doesn't have trade value of almost any of these guys. So Bo Nix, yeah, there's a decent gap between them. Will Levis is a good one, I think. Like, I don't think Will Levis long term is going to be great, but like Will Levis during the season is going to be more valuable than he is now, probably. So with that, like, if you can get a first on top, I'm easily taking that. Easily taking that.
You can get a first on top of Will Levis
if you
trade off Bryce Young.
If you can in a 14 team, maybe. Yeah, I mean, so there aren't a lot of young value insulated quarterbacks here, but again, but Nathan, he has nobody to trade.
I know.
So
I'm just focusing more on the small value.
What good is holding Bryce Young? Even if Bryce Young goes up to the third round next year,
because we've talked about how much Bryce Young will potentially increase.
And again, almost every team I would tell him not to sell, but on this roster,
a lot of this we're playing the long game too. So if you already have a guy like Bryce Young whose ceiling is not near where he's being valued right now, just hold him for a season, knowing that he's likely going to increase in value.
Maybe
because he's a multi-year rebuild.
Maybe that is the case you make, but again, none of these players have trade value. So like if he's
Jameson Williams has trade value.
Barely. I mean,
Gardner Minshew will have trade value, and like we said with a lot of these picks, if he's trading down, that has trade value when you're trading down. So
I mean, the picks have trade value.
You've got Minshew,
but again, you're talking about Jameson Williams being equivalent to a mid-second. And this team is devoid of all value. Like, so yes, on any other team, I would say to hold Bryce Young. On this team, I'm down tiering anywhere and everywhere I can. I would down tier from every single player in the starting lineup. Period. All of them. I would, and again, you can't do it. So the only player that actually has relevant trade value that he has is Bryce Young, and I feel like you have to just take upside shots there, because again, even if it's a multi-year play, it really doesn't matter. Like if you're playing the long game, if there is no long game, like I don't feel like there is. Again, this team is a hard rebuild. So I see the appeal. Obviously, I'm one of the authors of the Bryce Young hype, but like I can't look at this team and be like, yeah, hold, because I'm at this point, I'm just like, I would trade Bryce Young into Bo Nix, back into Bryce Young, back into somebody else. I would trade him a million times before I didn't trade somebody on this roster in particular.
I mean, if you can get Levis in a first, I'm all for that. It's just, it's tough to
It's
tough to get a straight up first when you're selling Bryce Young.
But like if it's during the draft, somebody could. Yeah, I mean, it just depends.
I just don't see that.
It just depends. I mean, but a lot of these people play again for every really good team we see these really bad teams.
I'm not selling Bryce for seconds. Like, just not selling Bryce for seconds.
For second round picks? No, I mean, no.
No, if you can get Nix in a second, sure.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't sell Bryce Young for second round picks. Absolutely not. But you know your value. But again, if you can get any decent down tier, I'm taking it. Even if Bryce Young is somebody I like to value. So, depth again. This team, we gave you the targets. We gave you the look to trades. Down tier, make as many trades as you can. Those are really the two things we can recommend. Play the market on veterans. Play the market on rookies.
And be patient. The patience will pay off. Again, I think the one nice thing about Dynasty, there's a lot of nice things about Dynasty. The best thing about Dynasty is even in the worst possible situations, like a scenario like this, you will never be completely devoid of value for the foreseeable future because you constantly have value being injected into the team every offseason with rookie picks.
Yeah.
As long as you don't sell your future rookie picks, which you haven't. You have rookie picks this year. You have multiple firsts next year. I don't know about 26, but you can even start targeting 26 right now at a major discount because you're so far off from contending right now.
You can down tier from Chase Claypool? No. You can't down tier from Claypool, Demarcus Robinson.
Chase Claypool is barely rosterable.
Again, the only guy you can really down tier here from is Bryce Young. The rest of these guys, you cannot go lower than them.
Jameson Williams.
So, yeah. So, again, get your own team blueprint, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, choose another Flocker tier. You'll get one of these team blueprints. We'll go through the exact process we just did, kind of fill out your team, and then do the whole one-on-one process after where we kind of explore specific trades and give our thoughts.
Jameson Williams is more valuable than Deontay Johnson right now because of the recent Dan Campbell talk. You think I'm kidding that he doesn't have? He's more valuable than Njoku, than Spears, than Ingram, than Ferguson, than Stafford, Ridley, Kamara, Pollard, Kendry Miller, Jalen Polk. He absolutely has trade value right now. Marshawn Lloyd.
JMO?
Yes. This is Jameson Williams. I'm telling you, it is. People will never stop with Jameson Williams.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing that.
Roman Wilson.
I pulled it up and said he was worth a mid-second.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Oh my
who
goodness,
are you
Stephon Diggs.
Who are you?
Woo!
Who are you talking at?
He made it to this page.
I know. Are you that guy said Chase Claypool is what he said.
What about Chase Claypool?
I don't know who you were talking at, but
Oh, I was just reinforcing Jameson
oh,
Williams.
JMO. I mean,
Jameson
yes, you can
Williams'
get something.
trade value is ridiculous.
Yes, you can get something good for JMO. I mean, decent. So, no live stream on the redraft channel tonight because it's a holiday. We wanted to get on here midday, and we're going to be hanging out with peeps tonight. So, Flock Fantasy, links in the description, links in the comments. You guys come get a team blueprint and come join the community. But again, have a great Memorial Day weekend, everybody, or a great end of the Memorial Day weekend. And we will have.
Race was fun yesterday.
We did.
Even though it rained, got delayed.
Thanks, Waffle Houser. We appreciate you. You guys should get a redraft channel. Wait a second. We do have a redraft channel. In fact, here's what I'm going to do because you're watching this today. I'm going to give you a special treat. There's our video from Domain Fantasy Football today. Just dropped it down. It's doing, there we go. Let's go, dude. So go check it out. These are some players that could break out. And again, on the fantasy side of things, you have to be able to look and these are guys that you're drafting like 5th round or beyond. So it's like looking at the alternatives. These are guys that really haven't proven themselves yet. And so they're second-year players. We're going to kind of look at the analytics. Could they break out? Yes. Also no. So kind of how we're diving into that. That's right there at that YouTube link. Go subscribe to Fantasy Domain if you haven't, or Domain Fantasy Football. Can't keep forgetting we changed that name. But I'm sure, again, all of the content over there coincides with our Dynasty stuff. Breakout players, if a player breaks out in Fantasy, they break out in Dynasty, and they gain Dynasty value. So all of the players in that video are guys that you could potentially be buying in Dynasty as well. Because if that does happen, then you're sitting pretty in Dynasty with their value as well. So, and what is that? Oh, no, they can't see it because it's so washed out.
So exposed.
You'll get a peek of that this week on one of our videos. This is one of our new creations. So, all right, guys, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.